In this video, I'm going to talk about Chapter 1 from Golding's Lord of the Flies. The purpose of this explanation is to help students recognize William Golding's narrative style and the ways of presenting characters and events. Of course, in the first part, I'm going to show the technique that the narrator presents the major characters in the first chapter. After that, I'll talk about the way Golding described the setting, and finally I'm going to talk about his figurative language in relation to characters description and the setting creation. Now let's turn to the first part of my talk, which is about the narrative technique of character presentation. A point of strength in Lord of the Flies lies in the writer's techniques of characterization fused with realistic descriptions, well-developed and fast-moving plot. The novel opens with the physical description of the first two major characters, Ralph then Piggy. And of course a character introduced at the beginning of the novel will usually come into collision with the other characters. The opening chapters will expand the picture of the characters and the society they live in. The novel will then progress by talking about characters' conflicts through a sequence of events extending over a certain time span. The novel will bring various characters into confrontation and put characters into problematic situations. The novel opens with a physical description of the first boy with reference to the way he moves through the undergrowth. The boy is followed by another one, but it seems that there is a difference between them physically. So if you see here that the boy with fair hair lowered himself down the last few feet of rock and began to pick his way through the lagoon, of course this is what a physical description, and not physically only, but it is a reference to how the first boy is moving fast and agile, while the second boy keeps shouting, "Wait a minute, I can't hardly move with all these creeper things." Here the second boy's declaration refers to a physical hardship which the reader should consider. Then the narrator presents the bodily description of the second boy. "He was shorter than the fair boy and very fat. He came forward, searching out safe lodgments for his feet, and then looked up through thick spectacles." This character's presentation helps us understand that the second boy suffers from two hindrances, fatness and myopia, short-sightedness. Through the dialogical interactions between them, one can find out a lot of differences at the level of behavior and personality traits. The first question said by the second boy was about the man with the megaphone, when he said, "Where is the man with the megaphone?" This is a reference to his keen observation, and the second thing which the second boy observes is the place in which they are suddenly found themselves. This is an island, at least I think it is an island, that's reef out in the sea. Perhaps there aren't any grown-ups anywhere. So he closes his notice with a reference to whether there are adults on the island or not. His concern about them is a near-future revelation that he is in need for adults. The narrator's comment that followed this statement underlies this fact. The fat boy looked startled, which is an indirect revelation about something wrong with this second boy. Then another observation is announced by the second boy, now about the pilot. There was that pilot, but he wasn't in the passenger cabin, he was up in front. So the second boy keeps repeating his concern about the presence of adults on the island, which makes him stand out as being anxious and disquieted. "All them other kids." The repetition of "must have," "aren't there any grown-ups?" "No grown-ups." So we understand from the second boy's repetition of must have, mustn't, and his investigation about whether there are adults on the island or not indicates something very important about the second boy, which is that he is worried, and this is one of the personality traits that the second boy from the beginning shows to the first one. The first boy looked uninterested at all with all those observations pronounced by the first boy. He keeps running around, followed by the second boy in difficulty. He feels delighted, for there are no grown-ups, even that when the second boy asked about his name, he didn't ask him in return. "What's your name?" "Ralph," the first boy answered. The fat boy waited to be asked his name in turn, but this proffer of acquaintance was not made. So this is the comment made by the narrator. Here the narrator shows their names, not telling, showing. Through the dialogue we learn about their names, about their personality traits. We should conclude a lot of things through the way they are talking, and we also should understand their behavior. The second boy's feeling of responsibility and curiosity is confirmed when he now asked about the other kids. "I expect there is a lot more of us scattered about. You haven't seen any others, have you?" So this question shows to us that the second boy is really solicitous and concerned. Then the narrator reveals something extra about the second boy, another shortcoming, which is asthma. The fat boy stood by him breathing hard, which is physical weakness, indirect revelation. "My auntie told me not to run," he explained, "on account of my asthma." So the second boy's piece of information told to us through the dialogue between the two, we understand why now he is asking about the adults, because he needs someone grown up in order to take care of him instead of his auntie. So the second boy keeps explaining his physical condition to the first boy, Ralph, to make him understand the hardship of running after him and his short-sightedness. When he said, "That's right, can't catch my breath. I was the only boy in my school, our school, what had asthma," said the fat boy with a touch of pride. "And I've been wearing specs since I was 3. So this is the physical shortcoming that the second boy is suffering from. So that's why the second boy keeps asking about the presence of the grown-ups, for he is in need for their care. His auntie was taking care of him before. Now he feels helpless and hopeless. Another aspect of sense of responsibility on the part of the second boy, when he told the first boy, "I expect we will want to know all their names," said the fat boy, "and make a list. We ought to have a meeting." So he keeps repeating the use of such necessity expressions: must have, ought to, got. So this indicates the idea of necessary steps that the boys should take while they are on the island without the accompaniment of the grown-ups. In fact, the first boy's moment of interaction with the second boy, he suddenly shows to the reader how he is impolite when he was talking with the second boy. When the second boy told him about his nickname, Piggy, he started to jump and shriek with laughter. "They used to call me Piggy," when the second boy told the first boy about his nickname, right? Ralph shrieked with laughter. He jumped up. So this is an impolite, though it is a normal behavior of boys. In spite of this mockery, we find that Piggy behaved then after that normally when they come to swim in the pool. And another comparison brings forward to the reader by the narrator Now it is about the level of organization. Who is more organized? We find that Piggy looked so organized in comparison with Ralph, especially when he arranged his clothes before he comes down to water. Piggy took off his shoes and socks, arranged them carefully on the ledge, and tested the water with one toe. After that, we find that Ralph keeps showing how he is rude once more. What did you expect when Ralph asked him about the coldness of water? I didn't expect nothing. My auntie then? Ralph said, "Sucks to your auntie." And this is repeated more than once. When he says sucks to your auntie, sucks to your asthma, he doesn't respect the first boy because he realized that the first boy comes from the working class family just because of the grammatical mistakes that the second boy commits through the dialogical interactions between the two. So Ralph repeatedly insults Piggy just because of he is from the upper social class family. And the dialogical interaction between the two characters uncover some information about both boys. Instead of telling us directly through the narrator's words, the narrator makes the two characters talk, and through the way they are talking, we can find a lot of things. So here we find that the background about the two characters are presented to us through the narrative technique of showing, not of telling. Ralph said that I could swim when I was 5. Daddy taught me. He is a commander in the Navy. When he gets leave, he'll come and rescue us. What's your father? So here, this piece of talk shows to us that Ralph, is athlete, and his daddy works as an officer in the Navy, and at the same time we find that Ralph is spoiled when he was talking about his father. And the answer given by Piggy, "My dad's dead," he said quickly, "and my mom," and then there is a pause. He took off his glasses and looked vainly for something with which to clean them. So this is another difficulty indirectly shown by the narrator, that the second boy is really suffering from the dimness of his spectacles because of humidity, the weather on the island. This forms really a hardship for Piggy when he from time to time wants to take off his glasses in order to find something dry to wipe the glasses. So we find that we have a lot of difficulties that Piggy faces whenever he's on the island. That's why he's in need for someone older to take care of him. Then Piggy said, "I used to live with my auntie. She kept a sweet shop. I used to get ever so many sweets, as many as I liked. When will your dad rescue us?" You see that? Another piece of information. But here it is about the second boy. We are learned here that he was living with his auntie and he is fat, and just because of he is eating so many sweets, the shop managed by his auntie. But the last piece of talk, when he said, "When will your father rescue us?" This is something indicates once again that Piggy is really thinking more and more about the idea of getting rescued. Soon as he can, this is something impossible. Why? Because you see, the narrator answered such a response made by the first boy when he said that the only sound that reached them now through the heat of the morning was the long grinding roar of these breakers on the reef, as if nothing can come and rescue them, only the sound of the waves breaking on the reef. How does he know we are here? The second boy is really clever, because he realizes what is going on around him. While the first boy is really spoiled, he doesn't realize what's going on outside. And this is the reality that the narrator knows about the boys when he was a teacher at the school. He knows that the boys come from upper class family. They don't pay any attention to external conditions of living, and they are really spoiled, and they don't realize the circumstances of the living conditions. The answer, how does he know we are here, is a clever remark made by the second boy. Because, thought Ralph, because you see, as if the narrator repeats the mind, of the first boy. The roar from the reef became very distant. This comment is very important. It means that, hopelessness. Even the sound of the waves when it gets away, no one can come and, rescue them. Even, nature is, helpless for them. They tell him at the airport. Now we find that the first boy is spoiled. Is there an airport? Really? It is war. Piggy shook his head. It means he doesn't agree with the first boy. Put on his flashing glasses and looked down at Ralph. Not them. Didn't you hear what the pilot said about the atom bomb? They are all dead. Really, he has keen insight about the conditions of the living outside the island. He knows that the world is at war, so no one can come because there is no airport at all. Then Piggy once more is worried when realizing that it is an island and nobody knows about them, when he said they are all dead. Said Piggy, and this is an island, nobody don't know we are here. Your dad don't know. Nobody don't know. That's why his lips quivered and the spectacles were dimmed with mist. So his lips quivered, it means he was about to cry, and just because of realizing this fact. Then finally he said, we may stay here till we die. This is a sign of really hopelessness. Ralph from time to time appears indifferent in a lot of ways. Indifference can be shown on the part of Ralph as being communicated through silence, or through changing the topic of the conversation whenever they are talking about adults, and through negligence. Now on this occasion he said, get my clothes, muttered Ralph along there, instead of responding to what Piggy was talking about, the others on the island or outside the island. Another sense of responsibility on the part of Piggy when he said, we got to find the others, we got to do something. You see, we have here got to, before that we have ought to, before this we have must have. So these necessity expressions of how Piggy feels responsible to find the others. Then Piggy insisted, how many of us are there? Ralph came forward and stood by Piggy. I don't know. So this is a remark, a further remark of how Ralph keeps being indifferent, incurious. After that, a shell is found, and suddenly Piggy was abubble with decorous excitement. This indicates that from the beginning, Piggy suddenly realizes the value of the shell, which is later going to be called the conch. It's right, it's a shell. I've seen one like that before on someone's back wall. A conch, he called it. He used to blow it, and then his mom would come. It's ever so valuable. So the value of the shell is only realized by Piggy because Ralph doesn't know such cheap things. It was Piggy who knows and who values such a thing. Why? Because Piggy's neighbor was using this shell in order to summon his mother, who was mute. So it is so valuable for whom? For Piggy's neighbor. That's why Piggy finds it so precious and expensive. Here he told Ralph, careful, you'll break it, because Ralph doesn't know how to catch the shell and it is so breakable. Again, Ralph is impolite when he said, shut up. The value of the conch is pronounced later on when Piggy said, "A conch ever so expensive. I bet if you wanted to buy one, you'd have to pay pounds and pounds and pounds. He had it on his garden wall, and my auntie," and he continues. But the dash here indicates that another instance of how Ralph behaves rudely with Piggy. Here the dash indicates that Piggy doesn't continue his comment about the value of the conch. Ralph took the shell from Piggy. Then Piggy keeps explaining about the use of or how Ralph should use the conch. He explained to Ralph the following thing. "Mowed like a cow," he said. "He had some white stones too, and a bird cage with a green parrot. He didn't blow the white stones, of course." And he said, okay, then Piggy paused for a breath and stroked the glistening thing that lay in Ralph's hands. So you see that even Piggy finds difficulty even when he is breathing or while he is talking. A clever idea pronounced and proposed by Piggy here. We can use this to call the others, have a meeting. They'll come when they hear us. Then Piggy continues explaining to Ralph how one can use it. Ralph, from the beginning, okay, he was unsuccessful using the conch, but later on, the comment made by the narrator about how the sound produced by the conch through Ralph's attempt indicates something important about the disturbance of nature. After the arrival of all the other boys, when they hear the sound produced by the conch, a very important interaction happened between Ralph and Jack. So let's see the type of the interaction between the two and how Jack interacts with the other boys. The first thing that Jack said isn't there a man here? So the first thing is that Jack was talking about a man, asking about a man, not about a boy. So as if he behaves just like, okay, a man. He imitates the others, the adults. His relationship with his choir boys shows to us that he is a dominant boy, a boy of command. He's trying to behave just like a lieutenant, and the other choir boys are just like his soldiers, and they should obey his rules. He shouts at them when he said, "Choir, stand still." So this is of course a sign of martial, okay, marching. But Merido, please, Merido, can't we? And even the choir boys don't address him with the first name, with the last name. That is, okay, how they are afraid of him. His incuriousness on the part of Jack, when he said he's always throwing a feint, said Merido. He did it in Jib and Addis and at Matins over the presenter. You see here, Jack is really self-centered. He doesn't pay any attention to that boy who fainted, and now he wants to keep his power over the other boys in order to show to all other boys that he is really more powerful than everyone in this spot. He repeated his question now to Ralph once again. "Aren't there any grown-ups?" Ralph answered with no. "Then we'll have to look after ourselves." So this is the first point of civilization on the part of Jack, that looking after themselves on the island is really good. It is a matter of order against disorder, which is going to be widespread in the forthcoming chapters. But later his arrogance shows up when he learns that all the other boys have kids' names. When he said, "Kids' names," said Merido. Even the narrator called him Merido, not by the first name. Why shouldn't I be Jack? I am Merido. So you see, he's trying to imitate the adult world. His rudeness, of course, is pronounced before that, and now he is practicing it with Piggy when he said, "You are talking too much," said Jack Meridoe. "Shut up, fatty." Now Ralph, instead of setting things right, so he said his name is Piggy. "He's not fatty," said Ralph. "His real name's Piggy." And, of course, he doesn't intend to tell the secret that Piggy told him before that, but he's trying to save Piggy. Once again, Piggy was laughed at, as usual, before that by Ralph. Now all the other kids know that the second boy's name is Piggy, and this will put him outside the circle of the boys, as if he doesn't belong to them. A direct revelation made by the narrator about Jack's arrogance when he said, "I ought to be chief," said Jack with simple arrogance. This is an answer, a response to Ralph's announcement when he said, "Shut up," said Ralph absently. He lifted the conch. "Seems to me we ought to have a chief to decide things." So chief. You see, okay, boys are thinking about election, about choosing someone to be the leader. The boys are trying, okay, to play a game, which is to imitate the world outside the island, a world that they come from, in which there is election, there is political conflict, and a lot of such things. The idea of playing a game is asserted by the narrator when he said, "This toy of voting was almost as pleasing as the conch." And even the conch, which is a symbol for order now, it is just like playing with the conch. When every boy tries to blow through the conch, now everyone tries to play the game of election. The other boys' behavior really indicates a sense of boys, only boys. They behave in just a natural way. So when they said that him with the shell, here the narrator is very clever to indicate that it is just like a game for them, him with the shell, but the underlying meaning here is that the man or the boy who has some sort of power, just like the shell, is that who can attract the other boys' attention. That's why here Jack realizes this fact, and he is trying to show to the others that he is really powerful when he snatched from behind him a sizable sheath knife and clouted it into a trunk. The buzz rose and died away. So this is fact about the boys. He was trying to intimidate them, to terrify them, in order to show to them that he is powerful after being elected as the chief of the hunters, the choir boys, not the entire group. Of course, after being elected, now Ralph senses that it is a matter of being just and to be a real leader, to provide Jack, who the choir boys, to be responsible for. But here, let's read something about the idea of the choir boys and what he is going to do with them. So here, the choir belongs to you. Of course, this is said by Ralph. They could be the army. The most important word here is the army. Army or hunters. So boys are talking about army or hunters on the island. This is significant. Why? Because imagine the island is peaceful, quiet, full of natural resources of living. And of course, it's just like paradise as being described at the beginning of the chapter, and in which there is army now or hunters. Of course, the paradise will be spoiled totally. Or this for a second, the boys are thinking about just like what is going on outside the island. Politics, you see, military operations. Jack, of course, prefers hunters, he said. Now, Jack and Ralph smiled at each other with shy liking. Shy liking, okay, I'm going to comment on these things when the narrator presents a lot of things concerning the characters' interactions and the way they are talking. The first step is really a reference for order, which overcomes disorder at this moment on the island. They think okay, about being rescued and rules, everything, okay, at this moment in the novel. If this isn't an island, we might be rescued straight away. So we've got to decide if this is an island. Everybody must stay around here and wait and not go away. Three of us, if we take more, we'd get all mixed and lose each other. Three of us will go on an expedition and find out. I'll go, and Jack, and then Simon is going to be chosen. You see, these are rules. We have rules here. They are going to search the island in order to decide whether it is an island or whether there are other tribes on the island, and a lot of things. So here it is something good till this moment. We have rules, we have order, they should follow. Another point now concerns Ralph's behavior. Ralph is different from the Ralph we know at the beginning of the novel. Why? Because now he is totally different. He changes his style when he is talking with all other boys, especially Piggy. At the beginning, he appears so rude, indifferent, and he doesn't respect and ignorant of Piggy's concerns about the other boys on the island, about the grown-ups. Now, when Piggy was following Ralph, telling him that he should go with them to search the island, and when he blames Ralph about telling the other boys about being piggy, not being fatty as called by Jack, here we find that Ralph's style is something different. Better piggy than fatty, he said at last, with the directness of genuine leadership. A comment made by the narrator, which is important here. Why? Because evaluation made by the narrator. Genuine leadership, as if he's really a leader, that he's trying to satisfy all other boys. And anyway, I'm sorry if you feel like that. Now go back, Piggy, and take names. That's your job. So long. You see here, Ralph said, I'm sorry, for the first time, you see, and he is trying to convince Piggy that his job is better to keep names. And as if Ralph realizes finally that Piggy really is unable to move. And remember, when Piggy was talking, he was unable to take a breath. When he explains to Ralph how to use the conch, he was trying to take his breath back. So Ralph senses, this idea, this difficulty on the part of Piggy. That's why he said that it is better for him to keep the other boys' names. That's your job. So long, and so long, right? He farewells Piggy. How polite, how responsible, how reasonable Ralph appears at this level in the novel. Now, when the three boys, when they are trying to explore the island, we find that Jack is the more powerful, more courageous, eager to find and to play the game of being explorers. When he said, "Come on," said Jack presently, "we are explorers." Simon, from the beginning, shows how thoughtful he is when he proposes an idea of not being lost inside the jungle when they want to get back after searching, after going away. Now, he said this: "We could make scratches on bark," says Simon, "and rub black stuff in." So remember, the way the characters are talking and the content of their talk shows to us the type of personality they have. Another sense of imitation of the outside world comes to this point of the chapter when the boys, especially Ralph, said, "This belongs to us." This is a reference to invasion, which is political concern, as if the boys now imagine the place is just like their own, and they are trying to capture this place, to invade it, to dominate it. So they are trying to emulate really what the people outside the island are doing, invading each other. This idea is confirmed by the narrator's comment: "Eyes shining, mouths open, triumphant, they savored the right of domination." They were lifted up, were friends. So domination here is a reference for invasion. From now on, the behavior of the kids shows to us that they are trying to be just like a primitive, just like the primitive tribes, which is a sign of savagery. When Jack said, "Well, get food," cried Ralph. "Hunt, catch things until they fetch us." You see the idea of hunting and catching things. It is a behavior of the primitive tribes. And once again, the idea of domination and invasion is asserted later on by Ralph when he said, "All ours." They laughed and tumbled and shouted on the mountain. This movement of the boys on the top of the mountain is another reference for the primitive and savage behavior.